Hello, and welcome back to ShySpace, where we talk about all things pertaining to mental health and manifestation. My name is Shy. I am the host of this podcast, and you might have forgotten about me because it's been a minute since I've been in this chair doing this thing. So, if you're listening, I missed you, and thank you for being here with me. It has been a very long time. But, what's crazy is amongst all that time, it's just flown by nonetheless. Like, I feel like I was sitting in this chair just a couple days ago doing my last episode, but it happens to have been actually 10 weeks ago. So that's always lovely. But what I will say is I come here bearing nothing but positive news and bearing nothing but really, really raw, transferable content that can be leveraged and shared to others to help them with their lives in multiple different scenarios. I feel like this little break that I took of Q1 of like removing the pressure from myself of being committed to this project really, really helped me in a lot of ways that I wasn't aware that I needed. And on that note, I would just like to say if you feel like you're working too hard and you need a break, please just take a break. I literally cannot give you better advice than to tell you to rest because not only does resting aid you in every single aspect of your life on like a scientific and health level, but it also aids you in your ability to manifest and leverage the power of the law of attraction and just the laws of the universe in general. So don't underestimate how bad you need to rest. When I tell you that I am not the same person I was at the end of Q4, I really mean it. I really fucking mean it. So welcome back. Thanks for being here with me. I'm very excited to be back. Just to give a little bit of context, I know that I kind of go like all over the place with these episodes and I don't typically stay consistent because I just do it when I feel like it. However, I am just me. So it doesn't matter if I tell myself that I'm not going to put that pressure on myself behind a project. I still do, but it's like a subconscious pressure. And it's the type of pressure that can really eat you alive and kind of start to like get you from the inside out without you realizing. And it affects you in ways that you may not be cognizant of. That was happening to me. I realized once the holidays came around, because my last episode was aired like right before Christmas, and I went on my Christmas adventure, and Q1 just started off insanely busy, and I just was falling behind so quickly. And I was like, you know what? I am going to shift gears this new year and prioritize rest. Like for the top of my goals for my New Year's resolutions, the number one goal for me is going to be focusing on resting and replenishing myself because I don't feel healthy. I don't feel balanced. I've talked about my skin journey a lot on this podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm wearing absolutely no makeup right now. I have a ring light on my face. So it helps matters for sure. But I literally would not have even thought of doing this 6 months ago. My skin started to make progress. So I was actually able to film with no makeup on the last episode in December. But since then, I've kind of gone in and out of having breakouts. And then all of a sudden, get this, guys. I go to the dermatologist. I'm scheduled to go on Accutane because my skin's not getting better and I'm still having breakouts and I've already been on Accutane. Y'all know the drill already. I go to the dermatologist in February and she's like, "Wait, your skin looks so much better. You've just done a full 180 in the past 30 days. Like what is going on?" And I was like, "I don't know. I feel the same way. Like I don't know, it's just been better, knock on wood." I don't know why. And so she's like, "Okay, let's hold off a month and, you can come back. And if it's just been like a blip in the radar, if you will, and you're breaking out really bad again, let's put you on Accutane, but let's just wait." I went back to her like 2 days ago and I'm still on spirulactone for anybody who's actually curious and involved in this process. So I'm not totally just like free of any type of medication, but being removed from the process of having to go on Accutane for a second time, if you know, you know, that is a blessing. And I'm sorry, but it is just really, really, really bizarre and crazy that just like the second that I decide to like shift gears in my life and really prioritize my well being, everything started to fall into place. Work started to get so much better and less stressful. I fell into a really, really great relationship, which I'll talk about. Obviously, the title of this episode is Tea Time. So I will give y'all what you want to hear. Obviously, we're going to talk about RJ because the last time I was doing an episode, I was still technically single. So we'll talk about that. But fell into an amazing relationship. My skin cleared up. Do I still deal with mental health struggles? Yes, of course. I'm mentally ill. That's not going away just because I decide to take 3 months to rest. Um, But on that note, it's funny because although I did say I was gonna rest, I actually spent all of Q1 just moving around like a fucking maniac and traveling and doing a bunch of stuff, which has also contributed to me wanting to just take a break and just allow myself to be like, I don't wanna say stress-free because it's not like this project stresses me out, but I think anybody who has a job understands how exhausting it is to just balance life and work sometimes. Honoring the need for rest is something that is so important rather than like pushing against it and resisting it and, like not taking a nap because you feel like you shouldn't take a nap because it's lazy or unproductive, whatever. That's totally my MO. But I recently just decided to change that and I sleep in when I want to sleep in. I snooze my alarm when I want to snooze it. I go to bed early if I want to go to bed early. I nap if I wanna nap. I stay in on the weekends if I wanna stay in. Like, I just listen to what my body and mind tells me that I need, and I don't fight it. I just accept it, and I give it what it needs. My life has just completely done a 180 in 90 days. I have also been very lucky to travel a lot over the past 90 days, and this is partially due to the fact that I am in a much better space financially than I was even 6 months ago. But on top of that, my boyfriend does happen to live a few hours away from me in Austin, Texas. If nobody's familiar with the geography of Texas, Austin is about 3 hours south of Dallas. Dallas is really far north in Texas, like very close to Oklahoma. So I have to drive a few hours south to go see that man of mine, but it's very worth it. But with that being said, I've been on the move a lot. I go to Austin a lot to see him. He comes here a lot to see me. We've been busy. Like in the past month, we've gone to San Diego and to Florida. So it's just been a lot, but I promised myself that by the end of Q1, I would launch a new episode or I would film a new episode, excuse me. Very specific with the expectations that I put on myself. And and on that note, here I am on the very last day of Q1, March 31st, Easter Sunday, in true Chi-Town fashion. At the very last minute, I am recording this episode. But hey, I can't help it if I get more inspired and I'm a better worker when I'm under pressure of a deadline. I can't explain it, okay? I've always been this way. If you know, you know. All right. So, obviously, like I said, we're going to do a tea time catch up. What's been going on, whatever. I feel like I just talked about that a little bit. Aside from all that, being busy with work, being busy with RJ and traveling, and just really trying to rest and take care of myself, I've also been dealing with some family stuff that's been really stressful. And I think that something that isn't really like talked about that often, the difficulty and the challenge in getting older and therefore your family members getting older. And you add that additional layer of complexity to it, like being in another state and being far away from them for those who are, or maybe in a different city for that matter. It's just really, really hard. And I never thought that that part of my life would wear me down as much as it has been lately. And it's not in a negative way. It's just that when something goes wrong with my family and I'm not there and it's not easy for me to be there, it really weighs heavily on me and it just like drains the life out of me. My mom was actually in the hospital for 2 weeks. It was a really scary time. We couldn't figure out what was wrong with her for a really long time, and I was, here in Dallas, and I was scheduled to leave to go to a wedding during the same time, and so there's just been a lot that's been happening. This isn't something that I would go on social media and talk about, and I don't know why, because I'm very open and transparent, as you all know, not only on my podcast, but on, like, Instagram, TikTok, everything. I'm very much an open book, but when this was happening with my mom, I felt like I didn't wanna talk about it. I didn't want to bring light to it. I didn't wanna bring attention to it, and I'm not really sure why that is. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it kinda made me sad because then I thought to myself, like, whenever I'm vulnerable online, it helps people, and they always express that to me, and I'm not helping anybody who may be going through something similar to me right now or has been through something similar or will go through something similar in the future. I'm not helping by keeping this to myself. So, I don't know, finding like the thin line between keeping things private because you deserve that and that's a healthy way to live, and then also being open and honest and vulnerable because it harvests connection or it fosters meaningful and stronger and deeper connections, which is what I want. I can't get that by just being alone in my apartment all the time because that's usually what I'm doing is being alone in my apartment, working, or I'm hanging out with my friends, or I'm hanging out with my boyfriend. And that doesn't really give me the opportunity to just like talk to people about what's going on in my life. That's what I want this to do, is reach more people. So, for example, if I were to post about something on my Instagram story, I have like 3,000 followers on there. I don't have a close relationship with everybody that is on my social media. So the odds that they're going to get the chance to have a conversation like that with me is very much slim to none unless I talk about it online. And I think that's the part that is challenging for me, is because I want so badly to have that connection and to have those conversations with people. And then I also want so badly to like completely protect everything that's going on in my life and not share it. So I've had to work through that over the past quarter slash 90 days slash tea break, whatever you want to call it. I've had to work through that. And it's been interesting. I'd actually be really curious to hear if people have thoughts on that, because it's not like I'm an influencer, but on the same coin, I still have a good amount of people in my social network, like over 10,000 with LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram and Snapchat combined. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of opinions. It's just nerve-wracking. And so I always wonder, like, when is it too much? Like, what should you be sharing? What should you not be sharing? Like, should I be airing out my mom's health issues, or just the fact that she's in the hospital at all? Because there's a whole reason that I'm doing this project, and the impact that it has on people's lives is why this matters. So, if you have a family member that is going through something and you're scared and you feel alone and you don't know how to talk to anybody about it and you don't know how to cope with it, I just want you to know that you're not alone and that you will get through it and everything will be okay. Cherish every moment of every day. I mean, honestly, like, I hate to say that. I hate to be that girl, you know? Really, you're gonna say that? But yeah, I mean, if I explained in detail what happened with my mom and why I'm saying that, y'all would be like, yes, I absolutely agree. But my mom is okay. She's on the mend. She's on her healing and recovering journey. So, another thing that I made one of my goals for the new year was actually to drink less caffeine on top of resting more. So, I find this kind of funny because I picked two really contradictory, is that the right way to say it? I don't know. Two New Year's resolutions slash goals that like completely just cross each other out or make each other worse, I guess. I don't know. Like, you remove caffeine, so you're already gonna want to rest more. And then on top of it, you're like, oh, I should rest more. Maybe that's good. I don't know. Maybe I did it all right. Maybe it makes perfect sense. Maybe that's the best way to do it. Probably. But at the same time, I kind of was like, damn, now I really am gonna rest just extra hard and I'm not even gonna care. But to be honest, it is so worth it because caffeine, I'm not gonna go on a whole rant about how caffeine is not good for you. If you're a Andrew Huberman stan, then you already know the impacts of caffeine on your brain and your body. And I'm not here to judge or act like I'm superior to anybody because I literally just gave up coffee 3 months ago. And this is probably like the 3rd, 4th, or 5th time in my life that I've given up coffee. So, just to paint the picture clearly and to share some context, I have replaced it with chai tea. The reason that I decided to quit coffee is because I am medicated for my anxiety and I was still having horrible anxiety. And I was like, it just has to be the caffeine. Like, at this point, I literally work out all the time. I have such a healthy lifestyle. I'm on medication to treat my anxiety and I still can't get a handle on it. Like, nope, that's not going to work for me. So that's when I was like, okay, every single time I get rid of coffee from my life, I feel better. Let's just try it again. I hate it because I don't want to be one of those people that's like, oh, I can't drink coffee. Like, it gives me so much anxiety. But it fucking does, dude. Like, I can't explain it. I can't explain it. And it's really weird too, because if you knew me in Santa Barbara when I went to college, for anybody who isn't aware, I went to UCSB, UC Santa Barbara, Party Central, that school. And how I passed and got a degree, I'm not sure. But what I would like to say that I owe it all to is caffeine, because your girl was literally strung out on every type of caffeinated beverage that you could ever imagine, several a day, and somehow still could breathe and function normally and went home and like went to sleep. Now I have half a cup of coffee and I'm bouncing off the walls. I'm psychoanalyzing a text that somebody sent me 3 years ago and sweating and just like can't sleep and just so stupid on that note as well. Anybody who knows me well knows I'm a full-time gardener, and typically, like, the caffeine and the gardening can go hand in hand and balance each other out, which is great. But if you're getting to a point where you're like me and you were too caffeinated and too anxious from the caffeine, even though you're only having, like, 1 cup of coffee and then having to garden intensely to bring it back down at the end of the day, like, that's a big no-no. That's not a good balance, and again, 2024 is about balance. I just put my hands up in this weird, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to create, like, a circle because I'm trying to find balance in my life in every aspect. And it starts with things like this, the little habitual pieces that you can maneuver and change. I just wanted to share that because I feel like this culture that we live in, not only our society, but our generation specifically, is very like hustle culture. And I know it kind of depends on what side of TikTok or what side of the For You pages you're on in terms of like the content that you'll see. But for me, I get an even 50-50 because I am a total spiritual freak where I believe that all we should ever have to do is rest and enjoy life and not have to work hard to be rich and all that stuff. But on the contrary, I also believe in working hard and I was raised that way. My father is a very, very, very hard worker, as is my mother. My mother has done 2 Ironmans, so that speaks for itself. If you don't know what an Ironman is, it's a triathlon, look it up. It's crazy. I have that ingrained in my DNA, and I was raised to work hard and persist and persevere and push all the P's, push and pee. I'm trying to do the P. Oh my god. Never mind, I just tried to do the P with my finger. Push and pee? No. I just tried to do the P with my finger in the camera and I can't do it, so never mind. All the P's though. I grew up with the P's and feel like my worth is associated with my productivity level. I think I've talked about this before, and that is extremely unhealthy and extremely toxic because if you never feel like you're being productive enough to rest, you will never rest. And it's obviously a very unhealthy cycle. And the thing is, like, as human beings, we are driven to always be reaching for more. That is why we have that innate drive to do more things and achieve more. That's where we get the feeling. It's not just because we're like super driven individuals, it's because human nature is built that way. However, we never stop having that feeling. And so you have to come to terms with that and like recognize, okay, I want to go this far and I wanna, like, reach this new height or whatever, but I can't reach that new height if I don't stop in the middle and take a break and replenish and reset. And so finding, again, the balance. That's what I should call this episode is Balanced Bitches, or A Balanced Bitch, I don't know, singular, but I'd like to manifest balance for all of us. So that's what I was trying to say is that the culture that we're in is very hustle heavy, very hustle driven. You know, you should have multiple side hustles. You should have multiple streams of income. You should be doing this, this, and this. You should have 6 degrees and 6 jobs and 6 figures by the time you're 6. Like, I get it. It's, you know, you think you have to just chug all the fucking yerba mates in the world and get after it. But sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is actually slow down because then you have the energy and the cognitive function to be able to attract the information, people, opportunities into your life that you need in order to reach those goals or, you know, make those new achievements in your life or whatever it may be. Don't forget, I'm just a girl and I just like to rest. Okay, now that we're about halfway through the episode, I feel like this would be a good time to pivot. Insert the Ross from Friends meme, pivot. I think we should pivot and talk about RJ because I really want to talk about how shocking it can be when you get in a healthy relationship and you're still triggered AF. Another thing that I feel like people don't really talk about super openly. So, just to give a little bit of background, if there's anybody that for some reason like doesn't know this, RJ is my boyfriend. He is a San Diego native. He actually moved to Austin from San Diego just right before we met. And for those who don't know, I moved to Dallas from San Diego a little over a year ago. So kind of funny because we never met in San Diego while we were both living there. We just met while we were both in Texas through a mutual friend that we both know from San Diego. So it was kind of crazy that we never met in California, but we both always say that it's like such a blessing because neither of us were in a good spot. Everything always happens for a reason, right? Him and I are like the same person. So it makes it really, really easy to have a relationship and to just like, be happy together. But on the same note, we are also very different people in one way, which the best way that I could describe it would be like the black cat, golden retriever couple energy. RJ has tons of energy. He never drinks caffeine. I don't even think he's ever had a caffeinated beverage in his life. He's always going. He's always on the move. He always is in a good mood. He always has the energy to talk to people. He's always wanting to do something. He always is doing something. And I love that about him. I think it's awesome. But I am not the same way. I don't even come close to being like that. Like, I am the black cat who needs to come out for a couple pets, hang out for a weekend, whatever, and then I'm going back into my cave and you better not touch me, otherwise I'm gonna freak out and hiss at you. Like, the poor guy. He's just always in a good mood, and then I'm always here, like, grumpy about something. But again, balance. We really balance each other out in that regard. However, with that territory and the distance in our relationship comes obviously complications. And, God, I just picked my nose again. I'm sorry, guys. I always do this when I'm filming and I always forget that there's a camera recording me. And then I'm just going to do it again because what's the point? With that being said, it's can be challenging, like having that difference in our personalities, just because what we want to do doesn't always match up, and like how we spend our weekends doesn't always match up too. I feel like it's important to talk about it because of the fact that we are so new in our relationship and this stuff is happening so early on, not because it's a bad thing, but because it's just life. We are adults who have just entered a relationship with each other. We're still getting to know each other. And on top of it, we're at a distance from each other. On top of it, I've been through a ton of shit in my life that he's very much aware of that makes it difficult for me to be in a relationship and just feel 100% okay and safe all the time. That's not something that I really love to admit, especially to a bunch of people that I know are going to be listening that may or may not have opinions about me or whatever, what I'm doing with my life, but it is what it is. I've been through hell and back, specifically as it relates to my relationship with men. And it's really, really, really hard for me sometimes to just show up as my fully healed self, if that makes sense. Because at the end of the day, you're only as healed as your last relationship, in my opinion. And the reason that I say that is because I went on this like crazy journey of healing myself after my last relationship. Didn't really date anybody seriously for a long time because I just felt like I had so much to work on and I just didn't feel like I was ready. Also wasn't finding the right person, but for good reason, obviously. And once I finally felt like I was in a good place where I was ready and healthy and balanced and just everything, I just felt so good. And I was like, I don't need a partner. I just want a partner. And I was really quickly cutting people out of my life that weren't worthy of being in it. As soon as I was doing all that, that's when RJ showed up into my life. And it was like, poof, like this magic, literally like a magic wand, but not really because that's how the law of attraction works. But then I got into my relationship with RJ and like immediately started getting triggered by things that I never, ever expected, especially not with RJ because like if you know him, like I said, he's a golden retriever. He's just the sweetest man. He is so sweet. He's so kind. He's so caring. I could go on and on about how amazing he is, seriously, but it just drives me crazy even more because I'm like, I have no reason to feel this way. He doesn't give me reasons to be upset or give me reasons to feel insecure or to feel jealous or have any type of concern about trust. Like, he doesn't do anything wrong, but I'm still here looking for love in all the wrong places, if you will, not actually, but looking for trouble in all the wrong places because it's like, there's no trouble here, so stop looking. And he actually said that to me one time. He was like, I feel like you're always looking for the catch with me. When are you going to realize that there just isn't one? God bless him because he's right. And I'm literally just airing out my dirty laundry right now. I don't even care because I just want those people out there, girls or guys, whoever you are, if you have trauma, if you have trouble trusting people, if romantic relationships are not your strong suit because of what you've been through, you are not alone. Relationships are so hard. And I don't think that people really are honest about that either. I keep saying this, but I feel like everything is so fake in our social media driven world. I've talked about this in another episode. You only see the highlights and you forget that like it's actually really hard being in a relationship because you have to manage so much on your side of things in order to be a healthy partner. And that is the journey that I had to go on over the past however many years, is realizing that no one is responsible for how I feel. No one is responsible for how I feel, how I think, how I perceive myself, my relationship, my world. No one is responsible for the thoughts that I think or the emotions that I carry or the beliefs that I hold. Like, that is all my responsibility. And I used to be in the mindset that everything that upset me in my relationships was my partner's fault and that they needed to change something. It all ties back to your childhood trauma. Shocker. I know I'm going to get like really off track here if I dive down this rabbit hole, but I just want to talk about that really quickly because some of the things that I had experienced with RJ that have been triggering to me or upsetting to me are just so minuscule and so irrelevant in the grand scheme of things that it's really been hard for me to grasp. So let me give you guys an example. Since I'm already airing out all my dirty laundry, let me just give you an example of something that annoys me that RJ does that is not worth getting annoyed over. When he's on his phone too much, not paying attention to me when we're hanging out and it's a setting where, maybe he shouldn't be or he's not like doing something important or whatever, that will get me really annoyed. And I'm probably not the only one who feels this way, but it really pisses me off. This one time I was at his house and he was just super busy doing a bunch of stuff on his phone before we were going out. And I was just sitting there and I was just like, didn't want to be on my phone, wanted to hang out with him. And he was just busy. And I got so irritated. And so I had to sit there by myself. Well, not actually by myself. He was right next to me, but I had to sit there and by myself do the work internally. And I told him about this too. It was so funny. I had to sit there and be like, okay, I'm getting annoyed right now because he's not paying attention. He's texting, he's doing stuff on his phone or whatever, and he's not giving me any attention. I don't like that. And I got genuinely upset. And so I said to myself, okay, what is his not paying attention to me making me feel? Whether or not it makes sense. So then I had to sit there and come to terms with the fact that to me, it feels like he doesn't care about me. Well, maybe that would make sense if that was always the theme in our relationship. But if it's just like a 20-minute span one night of your relationship, like, really? Is it that serious? No. So, like, what's the deal, right? So then I had to dig a little bit deeper and I was like, okay, why do I make that association between not paying attention and not caring? I probably experienced something growing up where I didn't feel like I was cared for when I wasn't getting the attention that I wanted or that I felt like I deserved as a child. And this is going to be hard for me to say because if one of my parents listens to this, I obviously don't want to hurt them, but we have a very open and honest relationship as well. And I don't feel like when I was growing up, I got the attention that I needed from my father. Not because he's a bad dad, but because he has an insanely busy job and that's just how it was growing up. And I know that I'm not the only person who can say that. Obviously, looking back now, especially with how much older I am and how I really, really, really understand the value of a dollar and the value of being a parent and building a life and having to try to balance those things, like I would never hold that against my dad. I would never feel any type of animosity towards him for doing what he needed to do. But it's hard for me because if I'm not doing that work and constantly having those conversations with myself and doing that inner dialogue of like, what's going on here, I'm never going to make it out of that prison. And I'm calling it a prison because genuinely it feels like one. And maybe that's a little bit dramatic, but I don't want to be held hostage by my emotions or my reactions to anything. I want somebody to be able to come up and literally punch me in the face. Like, this is not a joke. Y'all are going to think I'm insane, but I'm not kidding. I want somebody to be able to come up to me, punch me in the face, tell me that I'm a female dog, and me just be like, wow, that kind of hurt. But, good thing she didn't like break my jaw and she's probably having a really bad day. We're going to assume it's a girl that punched me in the face because otherwise I'd probably call the police. But, well, I should probably call the police regardless. But that is actually like the state of alignment and just like holiness that I want to reach. I don't want to be bothered by anything, especially something as stupid as my boyfriend being busy on his phone, texting whatever he's doing. Like he's trying to like hustle the plans for us for the night and I'm pissed off about it. That's ridiculous. So circling back to the parent thing, I realized in that moment that when I was growing up and my dad didn't pay attention to me because he was busy with work, whether it be him being gone at work or being home and working and not paying attention to me, that made me feel like I wasn't a priority and that he didn't care about me and therefore that he didn't love me. I'm going to pause for a second because I feel like that's a lot to kind of unpack and, come to a conclusion about just off of something as silly as not getting attention from your boyfriend. But it is that serious and it is that deep because before that moment, I wasn't aware of that wound that exists within me that can manifest in those ways. So I had that internal conversation with myself. I realized what was going on and I said, okay, well, at the end of the day, this is a sign that I need to be giving myself more attention because the only thing that really matters to me is that I love myself, that I attend to myself, that I care for myself, and that I watch out for myself. It's great when other people do the same for me, but I don't expect that from anybody. And I mean that. And when I start to expect that from people and get disappointed because they don't meet my expectations, that's when shit hits the fan. I feel like that's really important. And I just want to emphasize that because then in that moment, what I did is I realized that I needed to be giving attention back to myself and that I needed to give love to myself to remind myself that I'm safe and I'm loved and I'm cared for by everybody in my life, including my boyfriend, and that it's not that serious and that I don't need to be having this strong of a reaction to something that is just not a big deal. I felt a lot better after I did that and I decided, all right, I don't have anything that I want to do on my phone because I don't want to scroll through social media and I don't feel like texting. So I'm going to read a book. So I literally opened my Kindle app. It's like the first time I've opened Kindle in months because I usually just listen to Audible or I read the hardcover copy nowadays. So I opened Kindle and it was just the best moment because I realized that I have all these amazing books in my Kindle that I never read and that I want to read. And so I started reading and I totally forgot about RJ. And of course, once he was done with his stuff, he's like, babe, what are you doing? If you find yourself in moments like that with your partner or your friends or your parents or your teacher, your boss, whoever it is that's triggering you, take a minute to literally turn your eyeballs as inward as you can, look inward and figure out what's going on. Talk to yourself, communicate with yourself, be open about your emotions, and allow yourself to be in a space of non-judgment and safety just all the time. Allow yourself to show up however it is that you're feeling or in whatever state that you're in and just be like, okay, this is me and we're going to get through this. Was I totally embarrassed to even have those emotions and admit that to RJ? Yes. I'm usually embarrassed anytime I share any emotions with RJ because I feel like I'm a very sensitive, well, I don't feel like I am a very sensitive person. And I know that sometimes my reactions and my responses to things can be a little bit more intense than what most people would experience. And so that can be embarrassing for me because I'm like, why am I getting insecure about something so stupid? Or why am I getting upset about something so stupid? I definitely am going to dive more into this specific relationship related stuff because I think that it's something that could be really helpful to people. And I think that it's probably, at least at this point in my life, the most relatable content that I could share, especially if there's people who are in new relationships or they're in long distance relationships or they're just dealing with the same thing that I am, which is getting into a healthy relationship and not knowing how to act. Really quickly, before I leave you all, I just want to leave you with two really special things that I think you'll really enjoy. The first is going to be my favorite quote of all time that I have been living by recently that has really sat with me more recently than ever and has completely changed the way that I operate on a day-to-day. Here's the quote. It's by Abraham Hicks, shocker. But it's talking about freedom and it's relating back to the comment that I made about not letting anybody or anything control me and my emotions and my reactions, including getting punched in the face by a stranger. It says, freedom only comes when you decide you don't need anyone or anything to change in order for you to feel better. I'm going to read that again. Freedom only comes when you decide you don't need anyone or anything to change in order for you to feel better. Yeah. I won't say anything else. I feel like that quote really speaks for itself. Just wanted to share that with y'all. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention is just a quick story time because I came to the realization of just how powerful I am as an individual and how powerful the law of attraction and the laws of the universe are. Literally just a few days ago when I stumbled across this note that I found in my notes app that I wrote on August 14th of 2023. I was writing it because I was reflecting on how 2023 had gone so far and how I wanted it to end, where I felt like I had made such progress and achievements, and then where I was lacking those, and where I wanted more to manifest before the end of the year. And one of those things that really felt like it was missing for me was having a partner and having a relationship. So I wanted to do something that I felt like would help me manifest and attract that person into my life. And on that same token, I felt like I was about to be ready for a career transition. So I just wrote out this note because it's a manifestation technique to write a future goal in the present tense as if it's already happened. I'm just going to read you this note. So it says, in 2023, I moved to a new state, landed my dream job, got a new car, started a podcast, and met the love of my life. Beyond grateful to be on this journey, and I am so excited to see what next year has in store for me. So I kind of wrote it almost as if like that's how I would write like an Instagram caption to recap my year. That is literally the mindset that I had. And I kept it at the top of my notes with a little heart, and I read it over and over again, just whenever I would see it, because I have my little notes widget on my computer. So I would read it when I would see it pop up, and, I would go in my notes to do something, and then I'd read it again. And I just kept reading it. And then one day I just forgot about it. So I wrote this note on August 14th. I landed a new job less than 6 weeks after writing that note. And then I met RJ about 3 months after writing that note. So don't underestimate the power of speaking things into existence. I find absolutely no coincidence in this note and the things that have transpired in my life since then. I hope that inspires somebody out there. I promise you, everything you want is just around the corner. You are loved. You are protected. You are divinely guided at all times. I love you. I'm here for you. If you've listened all the way to the end, my gratitude for you is not, what's the word? Immeasurable? Is that the right way to say it? Immeasurable? I cannot measure the amount of gratitude that I have for anybody who's listening to this right now. Thank you so much for listening and being here with me. I hope that you have an amazing start to your April month, and I'm very happy to be back with y'all. So thanks again, and we will chat soon. Bye.